Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted via remote means. Members of the public who wish to access the meeting may do so in the following manner, joining the meeting at the link in the agenda. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so for reasons of economic hardship and despite best efforts, we will post on the Westborough Public Library website an audio or video recording.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I don't know, he'll run it down and we'll do what we can do.
Transcript or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. And this meeting is being recorded. Okay, are there any members of the public here who want to comment? I'm not seeing anyone on the attendee list.
Yeah, this is Bob Peterson speaking.
Oh, hello, Bob.
I will be attending. I have no comments to make. It's just attending from representing the Congregational Church. And I just noticed that my name is strictly Bob on there. So I wanted to make sure people were aware that I was attending the meeting.
Great, thank you for letting us know. And it's good to see people interested. I want to say this meeting is going to be focused on the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning design with a little bit of time for other issues. A lot of sort of the related content will be, the more normal stuff will be covered on our regular meeting on, let's see, the 22nd, is that correct? 21st? No, the 28th, I'm sorry, on May 28th, Tuesday, May 28th at 3:30, which is regular time. So with that said, we'll go to the first agenda item, discussion of HVAC design considerations. Pete, do you want to take this, or should I hand it over to Christina? Or go ahead, Maureen.
Before you start, we did have one more person join the meeting.
Oh, okay.
So that is Kevin Thiemann, my mechanical engineer for the project.
Okay.
And so I think that once we see him, he'll be able to help me explain kind of where we landed on the HVAC stuff. So we'll give him a minute to get in here. Hi, Kevin.
Kevin, I think you spoke to us once before a couple of months ago on the same topic. So
yeah,
great, welcome back.
Thanks.
Pete, I
sorry, I was.
Oh, no worries. We just got started. You missed the recording or the remote meeting statement. Pete, did you want to give a quick summary before we launch into kind of where we are right now? I welcome that if you'd like to do that.
Yeah, no, I'm looking to you to lead us on the update, and then I can respond to that.
All right, that sounds good. So what we have, just to give you a quick summary, what we have tasked Kevin with is trying to figure out the right degree of replacement of our chiller. So when we met off kind of like as a subcommittee with Walter and Pete last week, I believe, and we started just to talk about what are the implications of these various chiller options. And so the first thing we kind of discussed and what we need to kind of determine right off the bat, or as soon as possible, I should say, is if reuse of the existing chiller is still being considered here. So with the reuse of the existing chiller, we would lose some space in the boiler room, which we are planning to take over for new water connections for fire suppression and domestic water. So that's something that would need to find another place within the building if we are not able to put it where the existing chiller is right now. So that's the reason why the concept of retaining the existing chiller needs to be decided as soon as possible. And I believe I sent a summary email to that effect to everyone. With that in mind, we're kind of considering three scenarios. So there's reuse the existing chiller, there's the 60-ton chiller, which is in the current design, and there's downsizing that chiller to a 30-ton, someplace in the middle to save some initial costs, but potentially use a little bit more gas in our operations. So with that, Kevin, do you want to kind of walk through some of the stuff that you were able to come up with? I know you just sent me a revised sheet.
Do you want to? I don't know if I can share my screen, but can
you?
Or?
Yes, I can. No problem. I'm just going to share what you just sent me because I know it's a more updated version than the one I had from earlier today.
Yeah, just because I got back from that training thing and I tried to just throw something easier together. So this is what this reflects, which I think aligns pretty well. So basically, we already went over the last time we met, like existing building energy consumptions, and then what we expected would come out of with our new system. So now what I've tried to shift around and reflect here is the number one is, I'll call it the minimal approach, right? Keep the existing chiller and boiler as is, the first column. Replace the fresh air unit with a heat pump, so we get rid of the gas in that, and it would be a yeah, okay, option one, sure. So so that of course resulted in, if you scroll down a little bit more, you can almost see the whole, so you see like the building electrical consumption right now, it was running at about 140,000 kilowatts and about 5,000 therms. It looks like by doing that, the electric jumps to 163. The natural gas consumption goes down now because we've taken natural gas out of the heating the outdoor air equation. So that is number one. You're still using gas, but you've improved it. You've reduced well, this is reflective of the insulation improvements and the heat pump. So there's a kind of a thing going on. So you're using more power, but you're more electrified, if you will, because you're reducing your gas consumption by doing that. So that's basically the do less approach, option one, right? And then the next two, option 2 and 3, columns over, would be if you were really trying to push the electrification further down the road, trying to really get this building to be more electrified. So basically, and again, the model, this chiller heater is like a heat recovery chiller. The closest thing I can model it to is a VRF. So I've tried to kind of layer in VRF. So there's certain caveats in here, like the pump energy isn't fully picked up on options 2 and 3. My guesstimate is that would be another $600 on each one of those for option 2 and 3 in electric consumption to pick up the pump. So they would be a little more power shown on that. I think I noted it on another slide, but we can stay on this for now. So and there is still boiler showing because neither option can fully take care of the gas heating load in the building on extreme temperature days. However, the 30-ton does a really good job at getting rid of a bulk of the gas heat. As you can see, it goes from 3750 to very, very small amount. Actually, it's like 600 therms, and I think a lot of that comes down to the fact that that's if you drive the thing to 0 degrees. Like if you're just running it and trying to minimize your fuel consumption as much as you can, because it will, as we noted last time, it will carry the load till probably 25 degrees, and then it's going to need the boiler to help. But if you look at it on an annualized basis, there's not an immense amount of hours where we're below 25. Most of the hours occur above that. So it's kind of capturing the fact that, well, it's going to heat the building most of the time, except for those extreme days. The 60-ton didn't help that much more. It took the gas use down some, but again, because those extreme conditions occur not as often, it didn't show as much of an impact. However, if this was going to be a new building, all electric, where our only option was to do this or electric boilers, we'd probably push for the larger chiller heater to try and keep the kW consumption down as best we can. But in this building where you kind of have a mixed fuel, and it doesn't appear, well, she can get into Christina can get into rebates maybe later.
That's what I was just going to mention. And I just wanted to also mention that the difference in the electrical between the 30-ton and the 60-ton are very close. And that kind of surprised Eric and I, but you explained it well to me, Kevin, that like the chiller heater is going to be kind of working all the time, especially when it's in heat mode, right? So it's not going to make a huge difference.
Yeah, so on the cooling
Between-
side, the 30 and 60 ton will probably use about the same power in the cooling mode because we only have 30 tons of cooling load. So we'd only be running the 60 ton at half capacity, right? And then when we go to the heating mode, the 30 ton will cycle down to like 25 degrees and then it'll run continuous, where the 60 ton would run at maybe, 40 tons of equivalent load. So it's not like you're doubling the
Mhm.
power consumption there. You're kind of just adding a little more load to achieve your heating needs, and avoid using electric. So that
Yeah.
was kind of interesting to see that the differential wasn't that big.
And I
between
know
the
that Pete had his hand up, but I did want to make one more question clear. We had asked you to inquire with the manufacturer if the 30 ton can be expanded in the future, if you ever wanted to turn it into a 60 ton, like expansion of the amount of capacity it could have. Is that something that is possible with the equipment today, or did you end up getting an answer back on that?
Yes, actually, because I just walked in the door, I was looking at my email. They said this is absolutely possible. We do it all the time. So yeah, it's possible. It's important you make the pump size to handle the future flow. Yeah. So to answer your question, it is possible to add
Okay.
another module.
Okay, add another module. Pete, did you have a question or comment before I
I-
talk about rebates?
I had a question on the thing you just raised, so I lowered my hand. Thank you.
Oh, there you go.
All right,
So,
so
yeah.
Kevin, did you want to go through any more before I jump over
Uh,
to the quick summary that I made?
Just a let me see. Is there anything? Just
Keep
a quick
scrolling. I'm gonna
scroll down.
scroll.
You'll see that, like what I was saying earlier, the pumps in that top chart where it says heating pumps, I would expect the pump energy to be equivalent on the other two, because they will. This is where there's this weird thing, and I can't force pumps on a VRF program, so I'm trying
Okay.
to. You have to manually add them. So that, but I put a little note under there and said pump energy is expected to be equal, and we are improving our obviously with any of the electrified options, we're certainly improving our EUIs, for the building over the base. If you look at the chiller boiler base, it's like 48.5 for site energy, where if you look at either of the other two, they're down into the 32, 33. If you scroll down to the next
Oh,
slide,
I
it
was
just,
like,
no problem. It just shows like there, 33.6. Because basically you're getting rid of, anytime you're burning fuel, it's cranking up your site energy, your consumption. So,
okay,
yeah. So that's
so
why,
that's
because
the
of course,
33,
yeah.
and the existing is close to 48 EUI, and the 60 ton helps us just a little bit more and gets us to
32.8.
32.
And again, these numbers are assuming some numbers for lighting and electric power
Right.
loads and stuff. So it's,
Right. 33.6, 32. Okay, great. That's helpful. So I didn't have
I
those
have
numbers.
a question on, I did the EUI calculation on the existing and got a bigger number. Maybe we could
yes.
go offline and compare notes. I'd sent you the usage that I used that came off the utility bills.
Yeah, you had a higher KW, I think, was it? I do remember seeing something like that. And maybe I added up the utility bills wrong or something, but
Well, Kevin, I think there's another delta with your proposed in the scenario that we were just looking at, takes into account the reduction of the gas in the RTUs and the extra
yes.
insulation that we're adding on. So this EUI, the 48, is not existing. It's kind of
No,
proposed and keeping the chiller.
that's proposed with putting the heat pump on the roof. Yeah.
That explains it.
That
It's
would make
change.
up some of that
Yeah.
delta. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But
Great.
we could probably, like today, your number's right, Pete. Like
Yeah,
in terms
there you go.
of, yeah.
over the
Um,
last year, is, I did it backward looking.
Perfect, understood. That makes sense where we have a delta. So I'll just jump to, I tried to do a quick summary just to quickly simplify it to give you an idea of what the kind of dollars that we're talking about here. So here we have kind of 1, 2, and 3. We're using the existing chiller. Initial costs. It's not exactly free because we would still need to put in some investment in the tanks, pipes, fittings, and valves. So we estimate that that would be about $60,000. And then here are some of the, I'm going to have to update these. These aren't exactly what you came up with, Kevin, because these were more of the existing, but this is close enough for the existing heat use and electrical use. And then we have the 30-ton chiller, which is estimated because you basically pay for these things by the ton. So it's basically half the price of the 60-ton chiller. So at about 108,000. And we would have we would have cost additionally for tanks, pipes, fittings, and valves. As you can see here, we would then bring in this column here where we have been discussing with the utility what we're eligible for incentive for making these energy upgrades. So this is a little bit nebulous because we are not eligible for path 1, we found out with confirmation, but we are eligible for path 3, which is kind of, I can show that to everyone here if that would be interesting. It's a little bit customized for an existing building. So we would have a calculatable heat pump incentive, which you're seeing here at $800 a ton, but we have some other opportunities for kilowatt improvements and therm improvements based on some of the envelope and lighting and energy efficiency improvements that we're making. Those we don't have calculations for yet. So in terms of trying to compare this, I'm only using this $800 a ton incentive here for this particular analysis, because we're really talking about what happens when we change this chiller. So Pete, I know you had more to say about that. I'm going to let you go ahead and chime in.
Sure. Couple things is in Kevin's, when we had our working meeting, used the VRF model. And I see you're using the air source heat pump well. When this was the VRF labeled just an expedient because that was the model you were using, but we're not really, it's the chiller in question is not really a VRF system.
Right. Yeah, that's the best. You know, I like I said to Christina, it may be one of these customized things we have to talk to somebody about, but it's not a true, like a variable. How they define a variable refrigerant flow is refrigerant to all the fan coils, you know, that whole thing. We don't have that. But we do have a heat recovery chiller, which is different than an air source heat pump, but the closest thing to it. So, you know, I don't know if we can pick up extra money because of, you know, that kind of thing.
I was,
Right.
yeah, as you're highlighting now, I think there, as I read these documents, this one is very kind of custom and they take into consideration other things you're doing. So I do think that we would get some more rebate associated with the sections. It's
I
called
agree.
custom incentive. We'll get something out of these things
Right.
on the heat recovery unit on the roof and so forth. I think there's other areas we'll get some credits. It's not part of the 30 versus 60 decision, so it's fine to leave it out for
I
today.
agree.
Exactly. I think that's a great point. So, so we'll still continue to take a look at what our incentive opportunities are available. I think that Pete had a handful of other ones that he wanted to look into. We've confirmed that we are eligible for this, and we are because we're not eligible for some of the other incentives because we are keeping that gas connection. And they determined that even though we're reducing it so much to only use that gas on those really, really cold days, they're not counting that as emergency use. So that gives you the whole discussion that we had in a quick little sentence. So going back to here, so $800 a ton times 30 tons would be about $25,000, $24,000. And if we went with a 60-ton chiller, it's about $48,000. So I think that this kind of gives you a picture of how it would look. I mean, in terms of your opinion, Kevin, I don't know if you're willing to share one. I mean, I feel like the numbers are pointing in a certain direction, but
Yeah.
feel free to let me know if you have a professional opinion you'd like to share.
Well, if, if they're not, if we keep the boiler in play and they're not gonna give us um, a rebate because of it, then, it seems like an extra $75,000 for that, additional chiller seems like it's gonna be a payback that just won't occur, right? It's not gonna
Yeah, no,
occur within
I,
the life cycle of the chiller.
I think it's prudent to go with the 30 based on these numbers. I would like
Yeah.
a little time to play with the numbers and confirm, but certainly this is pretty compelling that 30 is the better option.
Hmm.
I'll just, whatever, I'll just play with the numbers a little bit, make sure I'm fully understanding. And if I have questions, I'll come back, but it certainly
Yeah.
looks like the 30 is the better choice.
That's kind of where what the state is kind of pointing us to as well. I mean, and just the confirmation that we would be looking for is that, a new chiller is the way to go, and we're not going to reuse the existing chiller, so that we can let our consultants all know if they need to make, those changes to those drawings. So it sounds to
Just on that point, I think it's worth mentioning the layout in the space. One of the things was that equipment might need to go into program space like staff break area or some, that doesn't come free. Keeping the existing chiller is going to be expensive and have secondary impacts that haven't been discussed really in this meeting. And I don't think they've really been explored, is based on what I heard.
That's true. I mean, until we have to find another place for those to live, just see if I can bring it up quickly. I can stop my share for a moment. So I guess just in summary, if we need to find another place for those two water connections to live, it would likely be in the staff break room, which is already getting a little bit smaller and smaller because we are taking out some space for the janitor closet. I was just going to bring up the floor plan to show you, and potentially some storage. So we don't want to take any more of that program space away, and that's kind of what we think that we would be met with if we were told that the chiller and the compressor need to stay where they are.
I'm going to toss in my 2 cents as the person who sort of raised the idea of keeping the existing chiller a meeting or so ago. It seems to me, if I recall Kevin's numbers correctly, we actually had a lower predicted operating cost with the 30-ton unit, overall energy cost, than we did by keeping the chiller. Maybe y'all can comment on that, but it seems to me that having to take away the break room and eat some of the break room and stuff is enough of a disadvantage that I'm liking the 30-ton idea. That seems to me just in my non-expert eyes, it seems like it's a sweet spot.
Yeah. Well, yeah, my 2 cents are, yeah, like Pete, I think it's worth us looking at the numbers between 30 and 60, but my first impression from our meeting the other day was that the 30 made more sense. It handles all our cooling needs, and the additional heat wasn't such a benefit of to the expense. It also gets us the space, and it also gets us a newer unit in there. So at least I think looking at the 30-ton makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds logical to me. I think that we're happy to send you over these reports that we have so far so that you can take a look through it in a little bit more detail. And we can certainly, I don't know if you want to wait to make the official decision, but we could decide that right now we're not going to consider reutilizing the existing chiller any longer, and that it's just a matter of official confirmation that the 30-ton is what we want to go forward with.
Pete, Walter, would you like to hold off until, or you wanted to go ahead and make it official now?
I'd
Okay,
like a month to look at the numbers.
Okay.
Is that impacting your schedule?
How about a couple of weeks until our next meeting, which would be on the 28th, I believe.
I mean, Kevin, I think that would be fine. I think that what I have in our drawings right now is the 60-ton. So it would just be a matter of making the direction to Kevin to change to the 60-ton and the resultant.
I mean, Pete, are you comfortable with 30 or 60 and not reuse? Because that's the big choice they're looking, or you want to look at reuse 30, 60?
I'm only asking for time to look at the numbers on the 30 versus the 60. I'm advocating not to do the existing chiller for the reason cited.
So I think to answer the more immediate need, we could agree that we would use the 30 or 60, and that doesn't really hold you up at all. I think,
and then please give me a deadline for when you need the 30 to 60, and I'll be sure to comply.
I think that it's safe to say that we definitely want that by design development completion. Kevin, would 2 weeks from now be okay with you in terms of the final tonnage for the chiller?
Yeah, because we can work on everything else. Like I said, that kind of what we're rolling back to that point. As long as we know it's not like, oh, we may keep the old chiller, because then it would change things, right? So.
Perfect.
I just want to point one thing out for Bob Peterson in particular. Bob, the new heat exchanger we're talking about would go on a pad outside the library, sort of near the fire escape, entirely on library property, but it would be visible from the church and the church parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's an issue.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I think that's great. I think that kind of wraps up the HVAC discussion with the notion that we will follow up on incentives and final decision on the size, but leaning towards 30 and not keeping the existing. So I think that sounds good.
Great. Any other comments or questions on the HVAC system?
I was just going to thank them for their work, and it was exactly what I was looking for in regard to analysis and support. So it was very, very good. Thank you.
Great.
I just wanted to bring up, we had a side meeting on this, a week or so ago. It's very helpful and informative, and I learned a lot. And I did just want to point out that for everybody else, because I find this hard to keep track of, but there's a whole nother unit on the roof of the 1980 building that isn't involved in this particular calculation.
Correct. The rooftop unit is basically handling the outside air, tempering the outside air. So that also is existing gas, and now it's going to be electric heat pump. So that's a reduction of gas that's happening either way, because we have to replace that rooftop unit. So that is true.
If I recall correctly, that reduced our gas units from 5,000 odd BTU to gas consumption from 5,000 odd to 3,000 odd. From Kevin mentioned it. It would be nice to add that the current baseline in is just background information.
Oh, like another column for this is the existing, like what Pete had calculated. Okay.
Yeah, I was confused about that for a few minutes initially. Steve, were you raising your hand there?
Yes, thank you. It's actually a hand instead of a yellow one in the corner somehow. As part of DD, can we get a document that does summarize not just the anticipated consumption, but therefore the anticipated operating costs? Just that next step on a building wide basis, just so that the library has that document in hand as they project operating costs going forward when this project is complete, instead of being a surprise.
Kevin, I defer to you on that one. I know that that's a little bit dicey to try to predict that at this phase of design, without
Or
having the
whenever
final.
it can be done.
Oh,
Appreciating your
okay.
good point.
Yeah, I mean, so we're looking at utility costs now. So you're saying what would maintenance costs be, right? Filter changes,
Oh,
whatever.
we just had numbers, not costs, actually, is the point I was making, with projected consumption in units, not, but then the next column of, and those costs X. And
Oh,
that's
there
all.
are dollars attached, but it's based on your current utility rates, which actually you have a really good electric rate. It was, that's a good deal there. That's helping the numbers somewhat. So I think we were using 23 cents a kilowatt, and which is about 50-50 split between distribution and cost of power. So it's helpful.
I think I saw those on the sheets you had up earlier. And
Yeah, we have some
information
of
like
it.
information like that, just with the appropriate caveat, this is current pricing and
Right.
and we don't know what it will be in the future. So that would be
And
very
it's some
helpful.
assumptions too on exactly what lights you get, exactly which pieces of
Mm-hmm.
equipment you get. So some of them are their assumptions, but we're like Kevin he did a great job just getting as much as he could in based on what we know today. So yeah, it's basically what Kevin had already kind of pieced together in terms of the approximate consumption for the whole building.
Even the rooftop unit that's not part of that, though, as well.
Oh, I think that he has that. Do you have that in here?
Is it all in
I
there?
thought it was.
It's in the new rooftop unit is what's in the model right now.
Okay.
Right.
Better efficiency, heat pump, not gas, that kind of thing.
Okay.
In fact, it's in all three columns, which is
Yes,
point of
Mhm.
confusion.
right.
Correct.
Well, I know you were curious about, well, what if we kept the chiller but did everything else? So I was
Yeah.
trying to show it that way.
That's exactly what I was looking for. So
Yeah, that's helpful.
Um,
okay. Pete, is that your hand up or are you the same? Okay. Any other comments or questions on the HVAC system?
Seems good.
Okay. The other item we have is recap and action items from April meetings with the Commission on Disabilities and Historical Commission. I'd like to go through that quickly to respect everybody's time, with the focus on anything that we, the building committee, need to do about those meetings. But if Christina, if your team can give us a quick update.
Yeah, I'll turn that one over to Tony because I know that he's been in contact with them and sent templates and letters their
Yep. So
way.
we met, as Ed said, with both the Disability Commission and the local Historic Commission to present on the various upgrades and historic preservation efforts that we're doing at the building, as well as an information session on the variances that we're seeking from the Architectural Access Board. And then both of those committees seemed to be supportive of our variance requests. And so right now I've provided both of them with language for that variance and a sample template letter that they can use to create a formal letter. It's my understanding that both commissions are working on the letter and will be voting hopefully on the text of it at their next meeting. I believe both of them are meeting later this month. The only thing remaining for that application, I believe, is that we will need a letter from the town. I think Christy Williams is the town manager, just authorizing us to submit this package on behalf of the town. And so I'm happy to provide, another template letter or any sort of information, but we were hoping that that request could come from someone on the building committee.
Rain, would you like me to send that or do you want to take it?
I think it's fine if it comes from you, Ed.
Okay. Tony, if you could send that package to me and copy Maureen,
Sure.
and I will get that off to Christy.
Yep. Yeah, I can do that.
Would it be helpful for building committee members to be present at the upcoming historical and disability commission meetings, you think? My default answer to that question is yes, but if they don't want you there.
I'll be glad to attend. I was there at both of these meetings, the one on the disability meeting on April 30th and the historical meeting, commission meeting last week. So, and Tony did a terrific job, and as well as Christina, in presenting the overview and the requests for letters as well of support. I don't know if the Disability Commission, Walter, you may know a little bit more about this. I think they agreed in principle, but they want to see everything in writing first before they take an official vote. Where I think the Historical Commission was a little bit more willing to sign off more quickly.
Yeah, so I got the impression that the Historical Commission basically authorized the chair to send this letter and just wanted the information. But they're not really stepping out on much of a limb as much as the Disability Commission is, because you're directly asking for for a change in accessibility. And the Historical Commission merely has to say, yes, we like the way things look, or something like that. And so, yes, my son, the commission, and I agree. I believe my impression is that hearsay wise that they were supportive of it, but she likes to see what the actual wording is before they would say yes, because it was more sort of philosophical, I guess, or not exactly spec'd out, and she likes details. So I think they would vote. I believe they'll vote in support of what you're asking for, but wanted to see the details. And so I think that's the nuanced difference between the two. And it wasn't clear to me, having attended the historical one, whether they really needed to re-vote it or not. They seemed to take a vote then. So
Right.
I
I'll reach
got
out
the
to-
impression that they're kind of more ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll reach out to the chair again and see what his timeline is and just get clarification on that.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. Christina, do you have any timeline concerns about this? Are we, in particular, ultimately, we're going to have to go in front of the Architectural Access Board, and I'm not sure when that needs to happen.
Yeah, I can speak a little
Tony,
bit to that.
Go right ahead, because
Yeah,
I know that you've been tracking this very closely.
Yeah, so it's sort of a step-by-step process. Once you start with the local commissions, and once you have their letters of support, because the building is a historic property, the next step is to go to Mass Historic. So we'll package up those letters from the commissions along with the documentation and the reasoning behind the waiver request. They will usually take, they took about 60 days on a recent project that had a request for similar waivers. And then once we have that letter of support from them, we'll send that to the Architectural Access Board. And they usually take about 2 weeks to review it and put it on their calendar.
Okay, so that's a week or two up front for our boards to meet, then 60 days, so that's another 7 weeks, and then probably who knows how many weeks for the Architectural Access Board to meet. So that's going to put us toward getting fairly close to the bid document phase, if my mental math is correct. And there's not much we can do about it other than be ready for it if that's the case.
Yeah, I would say from now we're looking at 3 to 3.5 months, I think. Okay. And so that would probably we'd hope to get a response, in the fall as we're working on CDs.
Okay. Great. Thank you for that update. Anything else on those meetings from anyone? Bob, by the way, thank you for attending those. It's great to have, important to have someone there representing the board. Any other comments or questions?
I guess the only other comment from the historical one I went to is their interest in, we brought up the subject of the roof, and they're certainly interested in somebody coming back and telling them where that's going, if it isn't going to be red slate, or if there's other proposals or questions. And that's where we kind of left at. That didn't affect the part about needed for the letter, so there was no reason for them to vote any support or agree to anything on that. But that's a follow-up thing.
Yeah, we're happy to go back again. I don't think Eric's on this call, but he's been doing some research. At the time of that meeting, we were having trouble finding any place that quarried red slate. We have since that time been in contact with we believe a supplier who might have some in stock, and so it's it's still a little bit further study to make sure it's within our budget and it's the kind of slate that we actually need and can get within the project timeframe.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, I have something unrelated to that before we break, if you.
Go
if
ahead.
this is the-
Our next topic is other building related issues, so I guess we're moving on to that.
It's actually, I was going to introduce Ben Bowers, who joined the meeting after you invited public comments. Ben is our new sustainability coordinator, and it's been a great asset to the town already, but we're working on several things, including a decarbonization plan for the municipal buildings. And so invited him to join and listen in on this as we made exactly the type of decisions we're going to have to be making over the next 20 years on many buildings, and try to establish norms and standards for how to do that, both economically and environmentally. And it is, and you know, these aren't easy decisions. It takes engineering professionals like we've had and community members to weigh those decisions. So we're trying to establish kind of norms of how that gets done. And I wanted Ben to be part of the meeting today. I did have one other thought. Well, first, Ben, do you have any comments? You're welcome. Introduce yourself, maybe.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. And yeah, I just would like to say thank you guys for all the work that you're putting into this. And you know, I'm happy that we're looking into some hybrid heat pumps and excited to move forward. And next couple of weeks, I'll work with Pete and kind of look at those all those files and everything and come to a decision.
And Ben was meeting with the energy team that's looking at the new community center, and they're looking at a similar hybrid heat pump solution there. One of the things that came up in that meeting was some financing options that National Grid made us aware of. So there's tremendous amount of incentive money. There's new regulations like the clean heat standard and the alternative energy credits, some of which will be triggered by putting in heat pumps into this system. The amount of those are really hard to calculate. And so I'm not putting them in this, but they're all upside opportunities. But each time we do this, we learn a little more, then we apply it to the next building. So it was a good discussion today. I appreciated it.
Oh, Benjamin, welcome to the building committee. Please let us know anytime you need anything from us or you want to give us anything to us. So, and Pete, thanks for the intro.
And one other thing, back to the cheap electricity, I was going to make a comment that kind of crosses back into the Ben discussion. One of the things the town did very smart about 8 or 10 years ago was sign 2 very large solar PPA agreements. So about 90% of our electricity is purchased through power purchase agreements, which are fixed in price, and buffer us from a lot of the upside changes in electricity costs. And we still have another 10 years or so to go on each of those. And they cover about 90% of the municipal electric use. They also create a thing called net metering credits. And there may be some opportunity to use the net metering credits to pay for some of the capital investment in the library project. So we have excess credits and we can put them into an on-bill loan and use them as, and there's a mechanism National Grid has for using the credits to pay off the loan. So we're looking at kind of some of these creative ideas, and again, they won't burden this project with cost. It's going to be a way of paying for it. So it's an alternative to taxpayer payment. I guess it's all taxpayer money because they pay the electric bills that cause the net metering credits and all that, but it's trying to be as smart as possible in taking advantage of state programs.
It's excellent news. Thank you. Any other building related issues?
Is there anything on the temp space investigation? Is there anything there that we can assist with, or any information there?
Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, I made a couple phone calls. One was to Gene Colangelo at Westborough Shopping Plaza. He's got a couple spaces that possibly one, it's more than what we need. It's 28,000 square feet. It's right next to Stop and Shop. It's where Marshall's used to be. That's vacant right now. But again, that would serve two purposes. One, it could be used as a library, but also storage. And it has a loading dock in the back, which would help out immensely. The other space is where the 300th anniversary committee had their store. And that's only 7,000 square feet. So I don't think that's quite big enough for what Maureen had mentioned before, that she needs at least 10,000 square feet. So those are two spaces available. And Gene says he's willing to work with us to see if something would work out for the town. I did talk to Chris Egan at Caruth Capital. He has nothing available right now. He is the person who we leased the space for when the police and the school department needed their spaces before. So again, we've got one viable option, I think, is with Gene Colangelo, but again, that's something we got to decide if we want something that large or if we want to make do with something smaller.
Great. That's I think that's something we should take up at our next meeting.
I'm
Go ahead, Al.
probably not going to be available for the next meeting. I've got a doctor's appointment, but Bill Linane will be apprised of what the conversations were, and he'll be able to upgrade everybody.
Great, thank you. Any other building related issues? Bob?
I just wanted to ask, I'm not sure if it's appropriate for this meeting or for the meeting on the 28th, regarding that memo from Shab Khan regarding the procurement process. Was that, we made some changes, but then we didn't make changes. Is that going to be posted to the website as is? Or I know she was doing that to kind of set the record straight as to the appropriateness of how we handled the procurement process for the designer and the OPM. Is that settled? Is that pretty much done? And is that being posted now, or any more changes made to it?
Rain, can you address that one?
I haven't gotten changes back from her, but as soon as I do, then I can share it with the committee and post it.
Thank you.
Anything else? In that case, we take a meeting to adjourn. Take a motion to adjourn, I'm sorry.
Just one quick thing.
Go ahead.
Are we gonna get Christina your slides from today at some point?
Yes, I will
Okay.
package them up. I'm gonna probably make a couple little like formatting changes and get them to you first thing tomorrow.
Perfect.
Great.
Thanks
thank you.
very much. Move to adjourn.
Let me see. Mary, do you have anything? I see, your face just turned up. Okay, great. I heard a motion to adjourn.
Second, Gordon.
Second. Okay, I'll go through what I can see. Maureen,
Yes.
Bob,
Petroselli, yes.
Pete,
Dunbeck, yes.
Al,
Gordon, yes.
Walter,
Leslie, yes.
Mary,
Johnston, yes.
and Ed Baldwin is a yes. I think that's everybody. So this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your time, and I think we made some good decisions here.
Thank
Talk
you.
to you in a week and a half or so.
All right, see you then.
Thank you.